You know, for me, learning how to strum a guitar had a lot of parallels with learning how to drive a boat. Actually, I just didn't really know what I was doing, had no framework of how to do it. I just started jumping right in there and trying my best. And now 20 years later, I can strum guitar pretty good and I'm not allowed to drive a boat in the state of Florida anymore. So I'm trying to pass on some of this knowledge. Just talking about maybe some strumming techniques and tips that beginners can do, or maybe even intermediate players, because it really comes down to a fundamental structure of counting. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but there's a way that you can kind of internalize a count and make it a little bit easier, so you're not always thinking like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 right? So we're going to break this into bite-sized kind of chunks. It's going to help with your strumming, and we're just going to get started on a G major chord. All right, we're going to make the chords really, really simple. It's just going to be this particular voicing of G major, middle finger on the 3rd fret of the E string, pointer finger 2nd fret of the A string, ring finger 3rd fret of the B string, right? And we're going to switch between just this and one other chord, where you move your middle finger and your pointer finger down a string to get this C add 9 chord, all right? So the reason that I want to use these two chord voicings, aside from them being very popular, is because I want to start breaking up how you're hearing the count, how you're hitting the strings on two different root notes on different strings. So what I mean by that is maybe the first strumming pattern you ever encounter is like a... Which it hurts. It hurts me to do that. Professional guitar players, they don't... That down, 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 up, lose it right away. You're not going to want to do that. Just like reading the boat safety tip manuals. Waste of time. There's no practical use. Like, I can't even do it without sarcastically starting to play it, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take that same feel, but we're going to do it in more of like an educational way. So it's going to sound like this. So it's going to be more musical, it's going to have more value because it's not going to be just like one mass of just sound just hitting you. There's going to be room for maybe someone to sing, maybe you can sing over it, another player can play over it, and we're going to hear the count a lot better. You're going to be able to internalize this, all right? So first thing we're going to do, the one count, the downbeat, we're just going to strike the root note. You don't have to just hit the E string. That's what we're aiming for. If you hit a few more strings, that's fine. We're going to break this up into the one count. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Okay? So, down, down, up is really layman's terms for 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Okay? That's a bar. 4 counts in music a lot of times is known as a bar. Just think of it as a section, something we're working with. And all the whole numbers are going to be down strokes. And the word and is going to be an upstroke. But here's the deal. It's not always as easy as just down and up. It's how you hit those down and upstrokes. Because if you're just going down and up forever, you can lose yourself inside of a count, which a lot of beginners actually end up doing, right? Now when we strike just the root note, the lowest note in this chord, on the 1 count, and then the 2 count, we're just getting the higher strings. I'm aiming for like the D, G, and B strings. If I hit extra strings around there, that's fine. I don't have to be perfect every time, but it's going to be a 1, 2. Okay? So we're separating that chord into 2 things. So if you're first starting out, you might even seem like it sounds like 2 different chords potentially, but that's the beautiful thing about guitar chords is you can kind of choose pieces of them to hit. All right? So again, doesn't have to be perfect. If maybe sometimes you get more than you're going for, but there should be a difference in that sound. Root, chord. Now, the second half of this bar, the 3 and 4 and, is going to be the same idea, right? But for the 3 count, instead of just hitting the root note, we're going to aim for maybe the lowest 3 strings, so the E, A, and D string. 3 and, the and of 3 is going to be an upstroke, right? 3 and. Now, upstrokes are easier said than done when you're first starting out, and that's why you want to pay a little attention to how you're holding your hand, or if you're using your fingers. I'm using a pick. You can do it however, doesn't really matter. But keeping your hand, your strumming hand, close to the strings, like if you look at the direction, the distance that my hand is covering here, you can see it's not really going outside the string set. There might be kind of like a need for you to really hit it and kind of go all over the place, but we're really working on efficiency, because once you can shorten the stroke of either your pick or your fingers, then you can get back on time and start playing more in time, and then getting just better sounding strumming, right? Same thing with, you know, if you're driving your dad's boat, you don't want to drive it so far away that you run out of gas in the middle of Lake Michigan. You want to be able to make it back and then crash into the dock. too real right there. But the 3 and the 3 is going to be down on the lowest 3 strings, and then I'm going to try to get up. I'm just upstroking the same strings that I was aiming for. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, but 3 and. Now for the 4 and the 4, we're going to do the same thing, but now I'm aiming for the higher strings, right? So I kind of cut this chord in half, right? The lowest 3 strings and the highest 3 strings. Down, up, right? Same chord, but you can hear there's a difference, all right? So when I combine these, I get 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and root chord. Down, up, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. This would be a great time to mention why these strings sound so good, is because they are Elixir nano web strings. I just put elixirs on my Martin D35 for the very first time, and this is the best that this particular guitar has ever sounded. I'm a huge fan of elixirs. I've been using them literally for over a decade, almost exclusively on all my acoustic guitars. And they sponsored this video, so check out the link below, because it helps me out, helps me make more lessons, and it's also going to save you money in the longer term, because you're not going to have to replace your strings as often, so you'll have more money for boat repairs. So thank you to Elixir for sponsoring this video. Check those out and enjoy that beautiful, long-lasting Elixir tone and quality in that bar that you can now think conceptually how it works. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Now you may notice that the higher strings kind of tend to have a way of ringing out over the entire chord. Like sometimes when I'm doing that, I just hear that high end a little bit more. One way that you can maybe hear that count and feel that count a little bit maybe deeper is adding more of a percussive element, and that's where palm muting really comes in handy. I really see most beginner and intermediate players work on strumming patterns without working on their palm muting, and palm muting almost comes like later than it should, in my opinion, when you're learning how to strum acoustic guitar. All palm muting is when you take the palm of your hand, really the side of your hand, it's not really named correctly, the side of your hand, judo chop the bridge pins, and now when you strum down, you get a deadened sound. Might be a little trickier, easier said than done at first, but aside from having different tonal options when you palm mute, it's really locking your hand into not being able to go too far. Like remember when I was talking about going too far outside the string set? You're getting a fixed position with your hand and your pick, and it's going to be way easier to get into a groove because you're training the muscle memory in your hand to always kind of go the same distance forward and backwards. So your downstrokes and your upstrokes are going to be a lot tighter, and you're going to be playing on time a lot more, okay? And especially with a lot of songs are only a couple different chords that repeat over and over again. It's hard to just make a distinction between the verse and the chorus of a song, right? So like, let's say the whole thing is just G to C. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'm trying to sing the verse, but I have a soft, delicate, beautiful, feminine singing voice, and I can't sing over a beautiful sounding D35 dreadnought guitar with Elixir strings on it without being drowned out. So what do? I palm mute it, and now everybody can hear me croon. I'm not gonna do it in this video, no, there's not enough time. But in a video coming soon, stay tuned. That's why you subscribe. And then you go to the C, and then maybe bring it up and de-palm mute it. Unpalm muting it. De-palm isn't a word, but we're just going for it. Just like Captain Sean and that boat at the ripe age of 9 to set and sail for the open seas of Lake Michigan. right? So think about palm muting and then really get that count in. Instead of thinking of downs and ups, if anybody's telling you to remember or memorize a strumming pattern just by like, oh, it's just down, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, 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 down. You know what? Don't listen to them anymore. Turn it into a count. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and down, 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 up, down, up. All right? It's really under the radar, low-key enforcing how to actually count. And then if you get that down, then just start adding and subtracting. The easiest way to do that is just, instead of, maybe we can flip it around. Instead of going 1, 2, 3, and 4, and how about 1 and 2 and 3, 4? 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Right? If you can count it, you can play it. If you can say it, you can play it. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 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 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Okay? So, you can really get infinitely creative with how you do these by breaking them apart into smaller pieces, always trying to hit a root note on the downbeat, and then really focusing on maybe just down and up, 3 and, 4 and, low top, high top of the strings, all right? Now let's work on switching chords, okay? So now my root note on the second chord, on the C chord, is going to be the A string. So aside from having another chord be introduced into what we're doing, we're also working on either your pick or your finger, trying to single out a single string instead of just always going for the E string, which again, may be easier said than done when you're first starting out, just hitting it by itself. You do have a lot more margin of error because there's no string beneath it, assuming you're playing a 6-string guitar, right? Now, for the A string, you gotta get a little bit better at just always hitting that A string instead of maybe accidentally hitting the strings around it. And again, it's fine if you do that, but just aim and try to make a concerted effort to just hit just that A string. So, we'll do the down, 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 up pattern. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and, if you're classy. 1 bar each, and then switch to the next one. Same idea where we're getting the low strings and then the high strings. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and C. 2, 3, and 4, and G. 2, 3, and 4, and C. 2, 3, and 4, and G. And then you can speed it up. Okay? Now, again, speed and tempo, that comes last. You really want to get a solid foundation of rhythm before you do any of that stuff. But one thing that I do think is probably the most important part of all of this, aside from just having good counting and timing, is being able to meet that count on time with your fretting hand. Okay? One thing that I see all beginners do, myself included when I first started out, again, I was still a little bit reeling from being on probation from the whole boating, manslaughter thing, is they do this. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and switch. C, 2, 3, and 4, and switch. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and wait for your hand, and then, right? That sounds broken up and just very disjointed. You really want to keep your strumming hand always flowing, right? Have your right hand, I'm a righty, if you're a lefty strummer, have your left hand. Have your strumming hand set the deadline for your fretting hand to hit. Even if you're a little bit late, it's fine. I'll be a little bit late on purpose on that C chord. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and another bar. See how I was a whole beat late, but because I kept going and I palm muted it and I got a deadened sound, I still kept the timing. You always want to keep the timing. If you can help it, just have this hand just keep going, right? Like an engine. Thinking of another boat metaphor, but after the manslaughter joke, I think I'm gonna put that one to rest. Did not commit manslaughter in a boat, just to make the good people at Elixir breathe a little easier. Just a joke. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and C. 2, 3, and 4, and 3, and 4, and. If you notice there, I exaggerated the and of 4. I left the chord early. Okay? So, the and of 4, that last count that we're playing, right? Every count, even if it isn't played, it still happens, right? We're going to leave early with the fretting hand because 3 and 4 and 1. Right? If you just get an and stroke up, even if you're not holding anything down fret-wise, and you arrive on the next downbeat, it's always going to sound fine. There's a lot of grace, there's a lot of play in these bars of music, right? 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4, switch. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and you never want to be late. And again, it just keeps it nice and steady the whole time. Even if you don't want to worry about the chords and you just want to get the feel of that count, just hold the strings without holding them down, or they just make that deadened noise, and then just work on your palm muting. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And even a deadened set of strings is going to sound different depending on where you hit it. Root, chord, down, up, down, up. See, those are distinctly different tones that I'm hitting in time. And again, you can do this with anything. Really, I do think that the one thing that helped me out the most was really thinking of striking a root note on the downbeat, no matter what it is. Like, let's say it's totally different chords. A minor, A, E minor, F, G. By hitting that root note, aside from separating the chord from itself and really kind of helping with the timing, it also buys your hand to get in position, like that E minor, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and F, 2, 3 and 4, and, right? I can get there, and then by the time that 2 count comes around, or the next count that I'm striking the strings with, I have my fretting hand has more time to form that chord, okay? So, the last thing I want to mention is just another note about even the counts that you're not playing, to make sure that you feel those counts, right? When I say 1, 2, 3, and 4 and, you might be like, okay, so down, 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 up, down, up. Those are 6 actions. It's like, you could think of it that way. There are 6 strikes of your pick and the strings, but that's still like 8 pieces of time that you want to allow time for, right? Even though you're only playing 1, 2, 3, and 4 and, the timing is still 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Again, I'm a big fan of the whole saying, if you can say it, you can play it. So maybe just try to like count that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but maybe silently or dynamically not say the and of 1 and the and of 2. 1, 2, and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and. Otherwise, you might find yourself rushing through the counts that you're not actually striking, like a 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and, right? If you can say it 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and, okay? So we could go on and on forever and ever on different strumming patterns, but I want to get that one down first, because once you kind of can deconstruct a count, you can get creative, you can start listening to music that you like and kind of diagnosing without even having a guitar, like, okay, where are those downbeats? What number in the bar are those dynamics occurring on? And then it'll be a lot easier for you to strum a guitar, which is way easier than piloting a boat, let me tell you. So thanks for watching. If you made it this far, thank you again to Elixir Strings. Definitely click that link in the description. Get yourself some of these NanoWeb 12s. I like 12s. I think it's like the perfect gauge of string. Again, 12 just being the thickness of the thinnest string. That's how a pack of full strings are used. 12s or 11s. I think 12s have the best tone, but are still the easiest to play. If those are too high, try some 11s, some custom lights. Those might be easier on your fingers too, but they all sound great. And again, rocking out the Martin D35. So if you have any questions or comments, hit me in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, the website. I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.